And welcome to the Michael Zehr Show. Today's date is November 30th, coming to you live from the Rising Eagle Studios here at the Warrior Healing Center in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And the gentleman sitting to my left needs really no introduction, since almost everybody in our community knows and loves you and your business at Bam Bam Barbecue. My interview special guest veteran today is Brady McManus. So Brady,
Hey.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule and having a chance to sit down and join us today. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm glad I could get the time to do it.
well, and you know, like I said, I follow quite a bit of your interviews and all the stuff that Bam Bam Barbecue does for the community, and it's amazing all that you do. So we wanted to focus on the man, the myth, the legend, right, behind the Bam Bam Barbecue. So we wanted to know a little bit about your military career. So we thought we'd. I've been trying to get you in for the interview, and I'm just I'm really excited
For
that
a
I'm
long
glad
time.
got you in here. So my first question that I always ask is,
Yep.
what is it that inspired you to join the military, and what branch did you join?
I never had plans to join the military whatsoever. I actually didn't know anything about the Army or any of the military except for like what I watched in movies. Both my grandfathers served, but you know, obviously that was before I was born, so I wasn't in a military town or anything. And
Where'd you grow up at?
Palmer, Alaska.
In Alaska.
In Alaska.
Wow.
I know. This little white boy from Alaska became
Yeah.
pit boss in Southern barbecue.
Yeah.
So, but no, I was getting ready to graduate high school and I realized I didn't have any plan on what I was going to do. And I was actually, my dad owned a roofing company, and I was on my way to work on a Saturday. And this was in April of 2000. And I saw the recruiting office in Wasilla, and I just pulled in because I was literally at that point in my life, like in 4 weeks, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Right.
And so it was a Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. I actually went up to the Marines door first. It was locked. Went to the Air Force. It was locked. Went to the Navy. It was locked. The room that said Army was open, and I poked my head in, and there was a E5 sergeant sitting behind the desk, and I was like, y'all hiring? And he's like, hell yeah!
Come on in.
He came in, and I just sat down and started watching, I don't know, probably 20 different MOS videos. Joined to get my MEPS appointments and all that stuff. Went home, told my mom, I was like, join the Army today. She's like, what? So that's the reason I joined the Army. They were open on a Saturday.
Because they were open on a Saturday. Wow.
If the Marines were open, I would have been a Marine. If the Air Force, that is literally how it happened. I didn't know anything about the military whatsoever.
Wow.
Nothing. Nope.
So what was it that you chose for your MOS?
When I was enlisted, so when I first joined, at the time it was a 67 Tango Black Hawk crew chief.
Okay.
And then after, I don't know, I was in like 2-3 years, it switched to a 15 Tango. So now that's a 15 Tango. And I did that for 10 years. And then decided to go green to gold, commissioned. And that was strictly based off of retirement. I mean, I wanted a better retirement. Also, we had a lady from HRC that came in and showed us these statistics in aviation for enlisted retirement. So, you know, to get to E7 it'll be quick. You know, I probably would have made it in another 2-3 years. But after that, they said from E7 to E8, the promotion rate was 2.9% ever made.
Wow.
And then from E8 to E9 was 0.9%. So less than 1 out of 100 ever made it. So I just kind of I didn't want to be in a job where I knew I never really had a chance to advance anymore. And literally all 3 of my buddies who stayed enlisted in aviation, because overall, that was my favorite job in the Army, was being enlisted and working in aviation. But I didn't want to be a stalemate. And all 3 of them retired as E7s. They were E7s for 10 to 12 years, and they never made it past it. And it's just statistically, because going up to E7 and the 15 Tangos, we compete just against the 15 Tangos. But when you go from E7, E8, E9, all your aviation is bundled together. So your Kyle, well, Kyle's no more, but Your Blackhawks, your Chinooks, your Apaches, your engine mechanics, your weapons, your electronics, all of the aviation MOSs get bundled together, and they're all competing, for those limited slots. So
Wow.
you could have, and they had stellar NCORs. They would set, we'd talk, and they'd be all upset. I can't believe I didn't make it again. I'm retired. I'm done. Like, this is stupid. And they're all above center mass. That'd be fantastic NCOERs, and I'm like, and then here I am telling them, hey, I made the majors list. And they're like, screw you.
Well, how did you find out about the green and gold program?
A flyer in a gym.
In the gym?
In the gym, and I was stationed at Schofield Barracks. I was in Hawaii. I was
tough assignment.
I know. I was on Wheeler Armory Airfield, actually.
Uh-huh.
And I literally was playing basketball. I got done one day, and I saw that up there. And I'm like, green and gold, what is that? And, of course, the lieutenant bar is what caught my attention.
Uh-huh.
And then, because I originally was going to go warrant. That was the original plan.
Right.
Go warrant. And then green and gold just made more sense at the time. I was able to get me back to Alaska. I went to University of Alaska Fairbanks. I graduated there with my bachelor's in criminal justice.
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you transition from an NCO into the officer? So then they don't ETS you out or anything, right? You're still active duty, but you go to like different...
All depends on your scholarship. So they have
Okay.
your 3 and 4 year scholarships. You actually ETS, and then you go to college, and then they just suspend your current contract. So if you fell out of school or you don't finish, you go back into where you were, and you finish that original contract that you had. If you complete your school and you commission, then your original contract goes away, which for me was great because I was in Afghanistan and re-enlisted like a year before this, and I got like a $30,000 bonus.
Wow.
And for a 6-year extension, I only did 1 year of it, did green to gold, so I didn't have to pay back that contract is just considered complete.
Okay.
And I commissioned on my son's birthday, December 19th, 2009.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where was your first assignment after you completed? So you didn't even go to OCS then, right? You just went right in from college into your new MOS?
Yeah, they do what's called LDAC. It's a leader development camp. It's between your junior and senior year, and then that's where you get placed on the list. So every year it seems to be, the magic number is about 3,000 cadets commission.
Okay.
And you get ranked on an OML list, and if you're in the top whatever percent, you're guaranteed whatever job, or there's all kinds of different perks. So
after you completed your degree, then what did you end up going into in the Army? What was your new in Signal?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only reason I took criminal justice is I knew my degree meant absolutely nothing to the Army. Unless you're going to be like an engineer, a doctor, they don't care.
Right.
You got guys who get any type of degree, and they're like, well, needs of the Army. So like when I showed up or replied for UAF, they're like, well, what do you want your degree in? I said, what's the easiest one you got? And they're like, what are you passionate about? I said, becoming an officer. So and they're like, probably criminal justice. Once you learn the terminology and stuff, then it's, you're just going through the motions. It wasn't hard. It was pretty easy.
Was it a little awkward for you the first time somebody saluted you when you're used to being the one rendering the salute?
Yeah, it was. And like I still remember when my first duty station was actually Fort Wainwright. I was with the Stryker Brigade up there, 1 SBCT.
Okay.
And I was started out with 1-5 Infantry Battalion. I was the S6. And every time the sergeant major would come in, I'm like standing at ease and I'm talking to him. He's like, "Sir, stop it!" And I'm like, I was like, "Have it! I can't stop." He's like, "Knock it off." And I was like, "My bad. I respect you, man."
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was up at Alaska for Fort Wainwright and Fairbanks, and you could give me $1 million, buy my house, and double my retirement, and I wouldn't go back.
Wow.
Not to Fairbanks.
Uh-huh.
Wasilla Palmer, I like that area. Fairbanks.
How far was that from home?
340 miles.
Oh,
314 miles. Something. About 4.5 hour drive in the summer, 6 hour drive in the winter because of the ice.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about your favorite duty station while you were in the military.
Oh, I was at Fort Hood twice. Fort Hood itself, I wasn't that big a fan, but I loved being there because you're right. You're 2 hours from going down to Dallas, San Antonio, a couple of extra hour going over to Houston. So there's always a lot to do. So we always did a lot. But as far as actual job, it was probably with the 335th out of Kuwait. I was running the plans operation and exercises. So I was TDY a lot. I went to Egypt, Oman, Jordan. I spent 2 months in Jordan and doing, with Eager Lion and Bright Star and all their different exercises that they do. And I was the lead signal planner for the 335th. So I got to go and just travel. And, when I went to Egypt 2 times I went to Egypt, and we got free days, so I went and checked out the pyramids and climbed inside them, and so overall for experience, that was by far my favorite.
What was it like being somebody born and raised in Alaska, and you're experiencing all these different foreign cultures? That had to be interesting to experience.
It really was. It was a culture shock, I guess you could call it. And I was the food. I love the food. Like
I was going to ask you about the cuisine. Yeah,
I never ate at the same place twice. I was always finding different places to eat and try. Some of it I was like, nope, not doing that again. Some of it I wasn't sure what it was. The best sushi I ever had in my life was it was in Oman. I was in Salalah, Oman, and it was a big resort that they put us in, and it was real funny because some of the nicest hotels I ever stayed at were on these trips, and this is just my thought process. I don't know if there's any truth to this, because there's hundreds of hotels, but we were always at the 5-star, $500 a night, and I think it's from what I'm talking to other people who went there a lot, and like the planning leaders that were from like the states that came over were like, yeah, the countries we're going into are like, these aren't safe for your soldiers. You have to stay here. And of course, it's their most expensive, best hotels, so they can charge. We have, some of these conventions that we planning conventions we went to, there would be 200-300 people that the Army's paying for, and we're all staying at the same hotel, and everyone's gets their own room, and and you're talking. I don't even want to know how many tens of thousands of dollars a night it was just to pay for the rooms. So of course, if I was Egypt, I'd be like, this is the only place you can stay. Every place not safe for you. But Egypt was weird too, because they would, every time we went anywhere, you had to request permission. If we wanted to go to the mall, or all the guys were all about the gold. Gold, you could bargain with these guys like crazy.
Right.
And so everyone would get as much gold as they could legally bring back through customs. Get as much as they can so they can get it through customs. But every time we went anywhere, you had to put your name on a list, and they'd tell us when we have an escort, and they literally wore Uzis on the side, little Uzi machine guns. So every time we were walking anywhere, we had to walk with an escort.
The host nation would do that.
Yeah, they would do. Now they got paid, but it was part of their rules. We couldn't go anywhere in the country while we were there without. And that was just for the soldiers. Now the civilians that came, they can do whatever they want. But for the soldiers that were there, we had to have an armed escort when we went anywhere.
What was your favorite place to visit while you were overseas?
Oh, Egypt. It was 100%.
Egypt by far?
By far. Landslide. That's where I got my suits and all kinds of stuff. You could bargain. Bahrain was actually a lot of fun, too. Bahrain a couple times.
What about the cuisine in Egypt? What was that like?
There was a Lebanese restaurant that was there. That was first time I ever had baba ganoush.
Baba ganoush, okay.
The only way I can think of hummus, but it's made with eggplant. And I know if I'm a barbecue guy, meat guy, but it was delicious. I was like, I hate eggplant with a passion. But
what do you eat it with?
It's just like on
like
bread.
Like the pita bread, or
it's like just think of it like hummus.
Okay.
But the spices and stuff they use in it was so good.
Wow.
I would probably try to make it, but no.
You have a lot of inventive recipes and stuff going on at Bam Bam anyway. Yep. So yeah, that's what you do. Don't need to add any more to it, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us also, when you were looking back on your military service, what was one of your fondest memories?
Retiring.
Yeah.
No. It was definitely when I got promoted to captain.
Okay.
Major was always one of those, like, I don't know why captain meant more to me than major did. Only because I remember being Private McManus, E1, E3, and seeing my company commanders and just, I kind of idolized them. I was like, that is just so cool to have that type of authority. And, I didn't really know what it took to get there. To me, at that time, when, I was 19 years old, and to me, a captain was like way up here.
Oh, yeah.
I remember leaving AIT, I only saw like a lieutenant colonel once.
Uh-huh.
That was at Fort Eustis, Virginia, so they were mythical creatures. And first time I ever saw a general officer, it was General Bell, and I actually knocked him flat on his ass on accident.
What? How'd that happen?
Brand new, got to Fort Hood was my first duty station. I got there in 2001, and they bring us from the airport, and it's me and like 4 of the privates, and we got all our duffel bags, and we go to the 3 Corps headquarters, is where they brought us to at that time, because now they have whole separate processing buildings. And I have my duffel bag in front of me, duffel bag on my back, my rucksack's up here. And so we're getting off thing, and of course they're like, let's go, and we're going. And the doors to the building, the 2 glass doors open up. So I thought, someone's like, oh, they're opening the door for the private. So I go running through it, and all of a sudden, boom, and I'm laying on the ground, and I'm
my gosh.
And I got my bag over here, and I look up, and I see a 1-star, like 2 full birds, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, boy.
What just happened? And then I get up, and then I see this guy getting up off the ground, and he's got 3 stars down his chest, and I'm like, I'm going to jail.
Fort Leavenworth.
I was like, I'm done. I was like, this is over. And all the other privates, I look, and they're like backing out the door, like, they're like, oh, and I get up, and he takes his hat, and he puts it back on, and has his 3 stars there, and he goes, first duty station? I was like, yes, sir. He's like, welcome to Fort Hood. And he takes his hand and shakes my hand, and I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, like a general. I'm like, they're not even real. They just put their pictures up, Yeah.
I remember when they used to teach us, "Be my little girl," so you knew what what the stars were for brigadier, major general, lieutenant general, and then general. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No. So that was, Fort Hood, and then I forgot, what was your question again?
Well, we were talking about your fondest.
It was. Yeah. It was like getting the captain. But after doing it, captain's kind of like the specialist of the enlisted world. As long as you don't get a DUI, you're gonna make it. And actually, I even know a couple that had DUIs that got promoted to captain. That was kind of crazy. And then, going to, like I said, major was never the end goal. I was always planning on retiring as a captain. Right. But the OERs and everything, I knew I would make it, so I was like,
how'd they entice you to stay in?
I think it was more of a fear of Army's all I've done my whole adult life. Right. And I always knew I wanted to start a restaurant. Uh-huh. But I never really wanted to take that leap because it's a lot, and I'm learning now. So there was just it was that safety comfort of a monthly paycheck and never having to worry about anything that, I didn't really need to leave the Army, and I probably wouldn't have, if it wasn't for the new PT test, I probably wouldn't have got out. I probably would have stayed in and done another 10 years. But I couldn't physically do that new PT test. I got arthritis through my entire spine and all this stuff, and so they wouldn't, you couldn't get a waiver for certain events, and so I stuck it out as long as I could, and then I was like, all right, it's time to go. It's time to jump into this barbecue world.
Did you apply for your veteran benefits that you earn?
Yeah, I have. I'm 100%.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
I like to make sure that our veterans get taken care of when it comes to our veteran benefits. That's really important. Mm-hmm. So how many total years did you end up serving?
23.
So 23. So how many of those years were enlisted then, and how many were officer?
10 and 13.
10 and 13.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it took you, what? So you're saying 13 years to go from second lieutenant then to major?
Well, that was 11 years. I was a major.
That was 11 years?
Yeah, to make it to major. And then major for 2 years. So if I would have stayed in this upcoming year, would have been my first look at lieutenant colonel.
Major was what, 04?
Yeah.
So when you made major, then did you have to give a certain commitment and time?
You only have to do 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
To retire with the rank. So it's not the same as enlisted. So like I'm a retired major, and so
Right.
I made sure I met that.
Very cool. So how did you end up finding Cochise County, and how did you end up here in our area?
So when I went to the Captain's Career Course in 2014, I was at Fort Gordon. I actually got orders to go to Aberdeen. I think it was a National Guard unit, and I was going to take over their S6. And I just left Wainwright, and I hate the cold.
Uh-huh.
And I'm talking like cold. Like we went to the field at Fort Wainwright one time. It was 74 below zero. And you're just miserable. Like even inside with the heaters, it was still 10 below zero. Like you were just cold for 30 days. Like,
my wife's miserable at 74 degrees above zero.
So I got those orders, and I called Branch. I was like, this doesn't work for me. Like I can't go back to the cold. And she's like, well, let me see what I can do. She called me back like in 2 days. She goes, if you can find someone there with the same, pretty much same job, same rank, everything. So and they want to switch, we can switch it. And so I kept asking around. I finally, there was another captain. It was like 2 classes behind me. And he was from the Aberdeen area.
Okay.
So he was like, yeah, I'll switch you. So I was like, where are you going? He's like, Fort Huachuca. And I'm like, where the hell is that?
Yeah, what?
I never heard of it. I thought I was going to like somewhere in like South America or something. I was like, Huachuca. I'm like, what the hell? So I called Brent. I looked it up, and I was like, Arizona, done. Like, I didn't even look at anything else. And so called Branch. They switched our orders. So I came over here, and I went to the second RCC, which is RCC Conus now, over here at Greeley Hall.
And what year did you get here?
2014.
In 14?
Yeah, and I was here until end of 2016, and then I went back to Fort Hood.
But you end up retiring from Fort Huachuca, didn't you?
So I fell in love with it here. It reminded me of where I grew up. I love the mountains.
Right.
Mild winters. You know, I saw the winters are great. It cools off, but you know, the first 2 years I was here, I didn't even put on a jacket. I refused to. Like everyone was out there in their uniforms with their beanies, and I'm like, no, I'm in Arizona. I'm not putting it on. I don't care. So, no, we, like I said, I fell in love with it. I knew immediately. I was like, this is where I'm going to open a barbecue restaurant.
What was your first impression of Fort Huachuca when you saw it coming down
so
I-10?
So teeny tiny. I was like I said, I was stationed at Fort Hood. And so, you know, Fort Hood, you're talking, I think they, first Cav alone is like 35,000 soldiers. Wow. And then you have, at that time, I think 4th ID was still there. And then the aviation units, you got the East Airfields, you got West Fort Hood with that. So to drive across post, if you're on post, it takes 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and you had dependents and everything else. It was just massive. And then Fort Wainwright was still pretty good size, but they had the combat brigade there. So when getting to a TRADOC post, it's just so small. I was I felt like I was on a fob.
One of the things that got me the most, though, is I love the mountains. That view coming off of I-10 and coming down, and just seeing that. You can see the whole city sprawled, and then sometimes if it's raining or overcast, sometimes you can see a little bit of the clouds coming down over the mountains and stuff, and it's just beautiful down here.
And we were just really impressed with the community as a whole. Like when we would sit here, when we were here for those 2 years, and I remember in my ex-wife, we were talking, and we're like, do you know, like the whole time we were here, like when's the last time you heard of like violent crime, someone getting shot or this, that? And of course it seems like it happens more now than it did then, but it was just one of those. And then I remember my son, we were in the Herald, we went on Thanksgiving in 2014, we went to the American Legion here and volunteered and did Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
and just
Isn't that amazing to do that?
Yeah. But just how much of it was in the community, like how giving the community was, and how much, like, this is the type of community where, you know, I can go to a bar anywhere, a restaurant anywhere, and 90% chance I could sit down to someone, there's some sort of military vet connection, something to Fort Huachuca, and so we just fell in love with it. It was really a lot about what I wanted to be about when I retired, and giving back and contributing and doing things, and I knew this was that right fit, and I knew it needed the barbecue. So
and your kids like it here too?
Yeah, they love it here.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
3.
You want to say hi to them real quick?
Hey, Dom, Evan, Kaylee. Hi.
Get back to work.
And my girlfriend Denise. And it's my dad's birthday. I don't know if he'll watch it.
Hey, happy birthday.
Yeah, I got to call him. And so if I forget to call you, Dad, I didn't forget your birthday, and this is proof.
Yep, there you go. Got proof. We can look it up on YouTube or on Facebook and watch the video later, and you can see it.
Yeah.
So you knew that there had to be a barbecue restaurant in here. Why Bam Bam? What was so popular with that name? It just stuck.
Well, my grandma used to call me because my Brady Adam McManus, so my initials are BAM.
Oh, okay.
So, but I really didn't know what I was going to call it. It was my daughter who actually, we were going through names, and of course, like, if you see my menu, I have a very good sense of humor. And so most of my names were probably not appropriate. And then my daughter was one, she's like, what about Bam Bam? And I was like, because to me, when you're thinking of a business and you want to market it, it's got to be something that someone will remember without having to have a business card. Something they will remember without having to write it down. Something that rolls off the tongue. I see some business names, and I'm so confused. Especially restaurants that you don't know it is a restaurant. Like, it has nothing to do with, I'm like, I would have thought I was going there to buy clothes. And I'm not talking about like anything here. I'm just saying, I'm saying in general.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure, and so the Bam Bam, you got to get the barbecue at the end, so it's very clear what it is. And then I just hired a bunch of good. The only way I could get my sense of humor or my personality, and there was on the bottom where it says "banging good Q." So I had to get myself in there because, like I said, people love it. Like our menu, we get the dirty grandma, the big nasty, the sweet fatty. I was like, I named this stuff on purpose.
Right.
You know, because people talk
and you have
about,
contests too.
Yeah,
contests of naming stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I still have a winner that needs to come collect her prize too. She messaged me. She was going to come in last week, but I was like, it was Thanksgiving. I was like, bad time. So yeah, no, the naming contests are always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been good, and I always give the winners their prize. I've had everyone has trolls or haters or whatever you want to call it. Like, you're just making the. No, I'm not.
And see, that's one thing that not only would I say I admire about how you handle it, but you don't let it go. You give your side of the story, because there's always two sides to a story, right? And a lot of times it kills businesses when people give these bad reviews, or they go on and they badmouth, for whatever reason, a business in our town. And it could kill their business.
And it is. And I think I'm going to be that business owner. I was like, if you say something, I'm absolutely 100% going to defend myself. I'm not going to be that guy. I know other business owners are like, yeah, I'm not getting involved with that. I don't want this. I'm like, nope, bullshit. I'm not doing that. It's like, you know, I had one lady left and this was before I had breakfast sandwiches. This was back in June, saying I went there and ordered the breakfast sandwiches and they didn't have it. And I went on there. I'm like, we don't serve breakfast sandwiches. So that wasn't Bam Bam.
Right.
I'm like, I don't have that item. Or someone that, you know, we went by there at this time, like, we're not open. You know, and so I know it was confusing at first because I had to switch hours and do things and fix things. And, like, it was really hard because not only the location where we are out going towards Hereford, but then trying to run lunch out there was almost impossible. That's why I don't do lunch. Everybody who lives out there seems to work on post. So they're not going to turn around and drive 3/4 way back home to grab lunch to go back to post. So it doesn't make sense. And you know, lunch is a fight to break even, and I'm not trying to break even. I'm not, you know, and so we had to adjust hours and adjust things and do things because I didn't go to business school. Probably should have done that instead of criminal justice. No. Knowing I wanted to open a restaurant, that would have been a smart thing. So, I don't have the franchise playbook that says this is how you do it.
Right.
I'm winging it.
But you're winging it perfectly because you could tell that you're passionate about what you're doing. You're passionate about your food. You're passionate about the community. And I've seen a lot of members in the community respond overwhelmingly positive to your, like if somebody says something, there's just like people just rally around. And again, you had struggles, getting open at the new restaurant. Now you've expanded a little bit and have that nice dining area there. La Sierra, they had struggles, open a couple of times. Again, we're talking about veteran-owned businesses.
Yeah,
but the community stepped up on them. They supported them. They didn't just give up on them. And again, that's another thing I love about living in this area.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's always been. It's been a struggle, but in a very good way, because if I didn't hit these failures, I'd be more scared right now if everything had been going perfect, and I was making $50,000 a month and everything's on a snow, because then something's gonna crash and I got too big, and then I'm really gonna fall on my face.
Right.
It was already hard enough. I made mistakes through the labor department. Things that I wasn't doing right. They did their investigation, workman's comp, all this kinds of stuff that I didn't think about. In my mind, I'm like, I just want to serve food. And even with the health department and working through those pieces. And the thing is, I can tell you right now, our health department here is not the bad guys. I always see people blame them. And I'm like, the answer to the test is right there in black and white. Just because you didn't read the study guide and then they fail you,
right?
It's not they're
fault.
not the bad guy. And if you talk to them and work with them, not just them, but any of the inspectors, all this stuff, it's like if you're falling behind on your car payment. If you talk to your bank, it works out a lot better than if you just ignore them.
It's not going to go away.
But back to the whole point was, if I wasn't making mistakes right now, I'd be more worried about what's going to happen. At least now I'm making them when I'm nice and small. They're recoverable. I can learn from them. I can get my SOPs and my TTPs and everything else. And if it wasn't for the training I've had in the Army, especially on the officer side, the more senior leader stuff that I've done, I would have failed 10 times harder. I wouldn't have had the guts to even try. Because I might not be able to do it all by the book, but I know how to make a decision, and that's the hardest part. And finding employees and wanting someone to be a manager is and I tell all my people who want to do it, I'm like, I need someone that can make a decision. I can't make every decision. If you make a decision and hey, maybe it wasn't the best one, or I would have done it a different way, we'll talk about it. But the last thing I need is for an issue, a problem, something with a customer, and you're going, well, I got to call Brady. No, bullshit. Make a decision.
You do very good customer service. I do have to say that. The way that you respond and stuff like that, you could tell that you care.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I feel guilty. Greg A., if you're watching this, he ordered on DoorDash this morning. We forgot his apple juice. The DoorDash driver, and it literally, I felt so. I was trying to, because DoorDash, you can only use that phone number for so long. And I literally was like, I can't believe I forgot his freaking apple juice. It bothers me so much.
Yeah.
Or when I see my son Dominic, he's progressing. The way he's matured in this business over the last 6 months is way beyond his years.
Right.
And I still know it. Right. I can see it in his face, and I'm like, that's not how we do that. That's not. It's like, did you weigh that? Did you weigh this? Everything gets weighed. Everything gets sliced a certain way, plated a certain. Macaroni goes in the top right container. I was like, it has to be. It's consistency. I want someone, if they come in on Monday and order brisket dinner, and then they come in 6 months later and order it, it should be exactly the same.
Yep.
And if it's not, we're wrong.
So the last question I wanted to ask you about is, what is one of the transitioning from being active duty military, going into the civilian sector, what was the most valuable lesson that you learned in the military that you were able to bring that into the civilian sector with you?
Confidence.
Confidence?
I really did. I had a lot of really good leaders. I worked for a lot of influential people in my career, and I was fortunate to do that, especially going 3 different combat brigades to strategic side in the signal world, from all the way up from 3-star commands down, and getting just the confidence in myself to back to my point of being able to make a decision and accept the responsibility that comes with that, and then be able to mature and grow and know I don't know everything, and how to delegate and use my team and feed information back to me from the bottom up. I want on the civilian side, even on my military side, I was like, some of the best ideas of how we can accomplish something came from the private or the specialist. It was the person that was down there turning the wrenches, running the wires, and like, sir, I think we should do this. And I'm like, 1,000%. And I would grab that specialist and bring him to the battalion commander and said, hey, this is the guy who came up with this. Because I hate the word I. I didn't do nothing. All I did was manage. As a captain in the S6 shop, I managed the team. I didn't do shit. Those guys did it. So when those guys did the good work, I brought them into the command and staff, that specialist, that sergeant, and I'm like, here's the guy who made that happen.
You were a good officer, weren't you?
I was like, it wasn't me. I didn't climb in that ceiling and run those cables or fix the STT or do it. I didn't. You told me there was a problem. I found the people who knew how to fix it. I let them do their thing. I came back and told you the job was done. You tried to give me the credit. No. It was this guy.
Do you have any last words before we wrap up here? Anything you'd like to share? Or?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, for those, I know you talked about earlier before we started, like joining the military and stuff. So it really is a sense of pride and brotherhood that you get from that service that lasts a lifetime with you. And you really won't even notice that effect that it's going to have on your life until you're out. While I was in, it was, walking around, it was, hey, thanks for your service. Thanks for your service. You're just doing your work. It takes on a whole different sense of pride when you're done with your service. When you're not putting on that uniform, you're not putting on the boots, you're not shaving every day. And then you start to really meet the other vets and share stories and see just how much more proud you are of yourself, of what you accomplished. Because whether you serve your 3 years or you serve 40 years, it is a choice that you chose to volunteer and do, and it will not hit you and sink in until it's over. And then when it's over, you're going to miss it. And you're going to, like, it makes me want to cry. Like, I miss it every day. Every day.
But you're still around that, so you still get the benefit and the camaraderie from other veterans, and even within the community as a civilian, you do that as well. So, and again, I have to give you your props and say congratulations on a rough beginning maybe, but I mean, you knocked it out of the ballpark, Brady. You did, and we're very proud of you and very happy for you for your business. And thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I got dinner in 75 minutes.
Just one quick announcement. The reason why I'm doing the show today instead of tomorrow, like I was supposed to, is I'm going to be out of town. So Brady was nice enough to accommodate and come in and do the interview today. So I don't have a whole lot of announcements, but I do want to remind everybody tomorrow of the Fun Food Friday, because it'll be December 1st. It'll start here at the Warrior Healing Center at 11 o'clock, and it'll go until 1400 hours. And starting in December also, we're going to be doing soups on Friday for our veterans. And what they do is they can come in with their spouses or family, and they come in and sit down and they have a nice little lunch meal and get to meet other veterans and connect, and it's a really good thing. So again, Brady, thank you so much for taking the time out, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I will see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.